Founded in 1729, Baltimore, the largest city in Maryland, was the second leading port of entry for immigrants and a major manufacturing center. Its roots run deep in history, from the birthplace of our nation's national anthem to Babe Ruth and the timeless poems of Edgar Allan Poe. Baltimore was not exempt from the laws of segregation that divided the country. Despite these inequities, minority communities exemplified resilience and continued to prosper. Pennsylvania Avenue was once the epicenter of Baltimore's black community, with numerous jazz clubs, restaurants, productive businesses, and theaters that hosted talents like Baltimore's very own Billie Holiday and other notable jazz artists like Duke Ellington and Nat King Cole. But over the years, crime, drugs, unemployment, and a lack of opportunity turned this once thriving avenue into a struggling, abandoned community, and many neighborhoods followed in its downfall.
What we're trying to do as the merchants and as the president, we want to bring the standard of the whole business area back up to where it used to be.
People are killed today in a double shooting in West Baltimore.
Oh my God, this is ridiculous. You can't even bring your kids outside to play.
Drugs made its way into Charm City and other jurisdictions across the country. President Reagan took his war on drugs to the forefront of a national crisis. It's been more than 30 years since President Reagan declared illicit drugs to be a threat to our national security.
If you look at the criminal justice system, it's almost like kind of the centerpiece. And around the centerpiece is, there's all these spikes of all these issues that feed into it. So whether it's crumbling schools, concentrated poverty, lack of economic mobility, food deserts, poor health, relatively low employment rate, as well as just life expectancy. These are all issues. There are many others that feed into the criminal justice. And so, we could address this all day long in the middle, but we also have a role to play in trying to address the spikes.
These spikes contribute to the rate of recidivism, which is defined as a tendency to relapse into a previous condition or mode of behavior, especially criminal.
People start selling drugs is because that's another way to have a revenue. If they don't have a way to have a revenue, they're either going to sell drugs, or they're going to steal, or they're going to rob, or they're going to do one of those things to survive.
Ex-offenders say it is vital for the city to establish programs and resources to get those who turned to a life of crime to survive back on track.
I've been in jail. Once you have a record, it's difficult to do much of anything when you get on the outside. Finding a job, that's pretty much nils, because nobody wants to hire an ex-offender.
Informal consequences very much are the flip side of the legal consequences. So for instance, an employer who refuses to hire a person because he or she's been in prison, that's not a legal obstacle. That's just an informal policy of the employer that's holding back that person with the criminal record.
State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby and her Deputy Director of Crime Control and Prevention, Deborah Spector, announced the Aim to Be More program in April, which gives first-time non-violent drug offenders an opportunity to have their records expunged and establish a career.
Today marks an important step in reforming our criminal justice system. When I took office a little more than 4 months ago, I made a promise to not only go after the worst of the worst, violent repeat offenders, but to utilize my discretion as a prosecutor to holistically reform the criminal justice system. And that's just what we're doing today.
It's these kinds of programs Professor Bernard says are vital to turning Baltimore around.
You want people to come back better than when they left, right? None of us benefits if people come back worse and then we do nothing with them when they come back into our community. I'd say a couple things. Number one, we spend a whole lot of money to incarcerate people. We spend a whole lot of money to criminalize people. And really what you're doing by providing holistic services, by trying to make sure that this person doesn't go back to where he or she came from in terms of prison, in terms of back into the criminal justice system, at the end of the day, you're actually saving money.
The mission of a prosecutor is to seek justice over convictions, and that's been my mission as the top prosecutor for Baltimore City. It's not just about being tough on crime, it's about being smart on crime.
We know that our city is great, but we recognize it can be better if we fight crime not only in the courtroom, but also through holistic programs aimed at reducing the rate of recidivism. We understand that people make mistakes, but paying for those mistakes forever is not conducive to restoring our city to what it once was. This is the purpose of Community Day in Court.